Okay, thank you everybody for your patience. I just got off the road, 3 hours and 15 minutes. Okay, we are sponsored by Shalom Fogel, Ilan Ishbis Yaakov Zeb ben Yehuda, Rivka Bas Yaakov Yosef, Tziv Yemirim Bas Gad, Yosef ben Zion ben Yaakov Zev, and for a great shidduch for Chaya Tzivya Bas Shoshani Gittel, and by Baruch Ian Leon Nishmas Yaakov Chaim ben Abba, Esther Bas Yona, Avram ben Shmuel HaKayin, and for the spiritual, emotional, and physical protection of Yeshua Menachem Mendel ben Beil Lashem Rivka, by A.B. Spry, L'Refu Shalem for Teiber Rosa Bas Hinda, and for great Zivudim for their daughter and grandchildren, and by Menachem Umansky. Those also looking for a Zivik should find it quickly in Israel, and Eddie Chazan, for the safety and Yeshua of Klal Yisrael, the protection and the success of the brave members of the IDF. Wow, it's good to be here. We welcome in, I'm not sure who that is, Menachem Umansky, Barish Gesselman, Baruch Ian, good to see you, Baruch, Eddie Chazan, Shelley Zeitlin, Dr. Black, Dr. Guy, Mo Kushner, Saba, Michael, Yaakov Warman, A.B. Spry, Nachman Chapler, Ruvain Shannon, Chaim Kramer, Shalom Fogel, Yisrael Fisher, Michael Avram, Rabbi Kranz, Yitzi Fuchs, Stephen Holtzman, Danny Fogel, Ilya Shutman, Abe Arbach, Yeshua Shmuel Eisenberg, and David Helfgott. We are holding about a new Mishnah on Daf Yud Gimel Amud Beis, broadcasting here again from South Fallsburg. You'll get tired just hearing the different places I'm broadcasting from. Elu dvarim asurim limkar loivei kechavim. The following things are also to sell to an oivei kechavim because you can assume he's going to use it for idolatry, and you'll be over lifnei iver. This is very important. That there is lifnei iver to a guy to cause the guy to do one of the 7 Noahide laws, which one of them is idolatry. So Elu dvarim asurim limkar loivei kechavim. It's stroiblin. The Gemara will tell us that it's stroiblin is a fruit of a type of a cedar tree. In the Maskana of the Gemara, it's going to be acorns. And we'll see it's acorns, and the Mishnah will say with their stems, because they hang it from their idolatry. B'nai Shuach is a type of white fig, upetoitres, when they're attached to their stem. You're not allowed to sell levina, frankincense, because the frankincense is, that was Shimon Klein that I didn't welcome in. Frankincense, because they use that for idolatry, and v'tarnagal alavin, and a white rooster. Rabbi Yehuda says, mutter limker loy tarnagal lavin beinat tarnagailin. If you sell other roosters, you could sell a white one too. If he asks for a white rooster, you could sell it to him if he agrees that that you could cut off one of its toes, because that won't be used for idolatry, because they don't use a mechusar aver, a lacking a limb, for idolatry. As I said, when it's alone, you could kaiteas etzbar moicheloi lefisha ein makrivim chaser la'avodas kechavim. If it's missing a limb, a digit, they won't offer it up to idolatry. V'shar kol advarim, anything else, stom on mutter. If they just want to buy it, you're allowed to sell it. Upeirushan, but if they say they want it for their idol, then it's aser. Rameir says af dekel toiv. Also, the dates of a very fine date palm, the chatzev, and the fruit of a sore bush, the niklas. The niklas is also a type of superior date. Also, limka because you could assume that they're going to use it for idolatry. Okay, we start now the top of Daf Yudal and Amud Aleph, and I will tell you, because it's so late, that it is an easy daf, so you won't have to stress yourself. Mayut stroiblin, so at first the Gemara thinks it's a turnisa, a pine. V'reminu hosifu aleim, they added to those trees that Shvius applies to alachsin. Alachsin is a type of evergreen that has fragrant fruit. It's stryblin, and it's stryblin, which we thought meant pine, but we'll see it can't mean pine. Muchsasin ubenai shuach, and muchsasin of benai shuach. They learned that if it's u benai shuach, it means muchsasin is not as good, but it's also a type of white date like the benai shuach. There is a girsa muchsasin benai shuach that it's one, but if it's separate, then muchsasin is a type of benai shuach, and these are, as we said, this is a species of white. I said I'm mixing up dates and figs. A species of white figs. So the Gemara says, so you see that its stryblin can't be pine. The Isa gedaitach is stryblin ternisa miisa b'shvius. That can't be in Shemitah. Shemitah is only if the root survives the winter. Zaklal kol sheyesh lo ikar. If it has a root that survives the winter, then yesh lo shvius. Then it has shvius. The kol she'ein lo ikar. If it doesn't have a root that survives the winter, ein lo shvius. The bottom line is that ternisa does not have a root that survives the winter. So that cannot be what its stryblum is. Elam Rav Safra Peirei de Arza. It's another fruit of one of the 10 species of cedar, and this is specifically the oak tree, which is an acorn. V'chein ki asa Rav and Amar Rabbi Elazar Peirei de Arza. It's a fruit of the cedar tree, which is an acorn, which is used specifically for idolatry, and therefore you cannot sell it to them. B'nai shuach, Amar Rabba Babachana, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, te'enei kivrasa. These are white figs, upetitros, and it's only if they're attached to their stems, because you have to hang it on the idolatry with the stem. Amar Rabba Babachana, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, when it says upetitros, it doesn't mean stems separately, but rather it means biptotroseyem shanu. It means that if these acorns and these white figs have stems, then you're not allowed to sell it. Hello?
Yeah, hi, is this Rabbi Weiss?
I'm in the middle of giving shir.
Okay, so should I call back a different time, a better time?
You could try tomorrow at 12:30.
Okay, I'm just going to tell you quickly to call Sarah on your sheet. It's about the raffle. If you could just call Rabbi Edelman directly, okay?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Says the Gemara, Levina, frankincense. Rabbi Yitzchak, Rabbi Shimon Lakish. The only time they use it for idolatry is if it's Levona Zaka, if it's pure frankincense. Tana, umikulan meichin len chavila. Let's say Ike, the idolater, wants to buy from me a huge lot of frankincense, then I could sell it. Because if he's buying a huge amount, then it's not for idol worship, then he's buying it for business. The kama chavila, how much is a big amount? Pirish Reb Yehuda ben Beseira, ein chavila pchusa mishloisha manin. It has to be the weight of 3 mana or the weight of 300 zuzim, says the Gemara. But maybe he's going into the idolatry business and he's going to sell it to idolaters. Maybe he's buying a huge lot of frankincense and he's in turn going to sell it to an idolater. Says the Gemara, that's too removed. You're only over lifnei iver, before. In other words, you can't put it directly before somebody who's going to use it for idolatry. Alifnei delifnei, but to sell it to somebody who might sell it to somebody who will worship idolatry, that loy mafkedin, and that we're not commanded about. B'tarnaga lovin, and a white rooster. Am Reb Yaina, Am Reb Zera, Am Reb Zid. The Ikedamasne and others say Am Reb Yaina, Am Reb Zera, leaving out Reb Zvid. If, let's say, Ike the guy says, Tarnaga lami, who has a rooster? So since he doesn't ask for a white rooster, that shows he's not asking for idolatry. So then mutter limka like Tarnaga lovin. You could even sell him a white rooster. If he says Tarnaga lovin lami, who has a white rooster, then also limka like Tarnaga lovin, because then it meant that he was shopping around for idolatry. Now Rabbi Yehuda, if you remember, said that you're allowed to sell him a white rooster together with other roosters. So now the Gemara is going to elaborate on this. So it's nice to see 29 Zoomers here this evening as we welcome in Daniel Rosenberg, who's joining us, and Ilya Shutman. Tanan Rabbi Yehuda Imer Meichu like Tarnaga Lovin Beinat Tarnagailan. If he buys from you a bunch of red roosters or black roosters, you could mix in a white rooster. So the Gemara says, well, what did he ask for? Hechidami. If he says, who has a white rooster? So why should you be allowed to mix it in if he asked specifically for a white rooster? Then I feel you shouldn't be able to mix it in either. Who has a rooster, so shouldn't you be able to sell it to him even alone, a white rooster? Only if it's mixed in, that would mean that the Tanakama says if he says Tarnagalami, just who has a rooster, you can't even sell him a rooster, a white rooster. Or the Tanakama, afilu bein Tanagama, it says Gemara. Well, one second. It must be that he's saying that. It must be that he was just asking for a rooster. You could only sell it to him mixed in with other roosters, but not by itself. According to the Tanakama, you can't even sell it mixed with others. We said that the Tanakama holds if you just ask for a rooster, you could give him a white rooster itself. Says the Gemara, rather, here what we're talking about is where Ike asked for a regular rooster and a white rooster. And the shaila is, what do we do then? Now, his Berish is selling roosters, and he asks for a regular rooster, a black rooster, a red rooster, and a white rooster. He wants both. Right? So the Tanakama says, since he said also a white rooster, then the Tanakama holds him that you're forbidden to give it to him, even though you give it to him also a regular rooster. While Rabbi Yehuda says you could give him a mixture. Tanya Namihachi, we learned likewise. Rabbi Yehuda, Emasai, when can't you give a white rooster? Bizman she'amar tarnagol ze'lovin. I just want a white rooster. Then you're not allowed to give it to him. Aval im amar zeh v'zeh, if he says a white rooster and a regular rooster, then mutter, then you could give it. Obviously he's interested in roosters, because if it was for idolatry, he would only want a white rooster. Vafilu amar tarnagol zeh, even if he points to Shelley and says, I want this white rooster, a guy that's making, the Gemara thinks it means, a guy that's making a wedding for his son, or there's a sick person in his house that needs to therapy of a white rooster, mutter. Because then you know he's buying it for the simcha, or he's buying it for the sick person. Says the Gemara, wait a second. If he has a wedding? We said if he has a wedding, you can't sell him anything because on that day, he sacrifices to his getchka in thanks for the wedding. You're not forbidden to sell only that day, and to that person that's making the wedding. But so how could you say that if he says he's making a wedding, you're allowed to sell him the white rooster? It says mishtel b'nai. You said it means wedding. We didn't mean it. He's making a party, a sweet 16, a graduation party, a birthday party. It's talking about a social party. It's talking about a ball. He's throwing a ball. Tanan, ushor kol advarim. Anything else, stomon mutter, without specification, it's mutter peirushan aser. But if he specifies, it's aser. Now, what does it mean, stam uperish? So that's an ambiguity. So the Gemara says, my stamon or my perushan. What does it mean, stam? And what does it mean, specified? Ilema stama amar chite chivarta. If he says white wheat, I want white wheat. Perushan amar lavei diskechavim, and specification means he says I want it for idolatry. Says the Gemara, there doesn't seem to be a chiddush in either thing. Loi staman srichan lemeimer de zavninan. What could be the problem of selling him white wheat? V'loi perushin srichan lemeimer. And if he says that he's doing it for idolatry, that's also obvious. It's obvious to loi mezvaninan. Elastama de ka'amar chiti. It's where he said wheat. Perushan the Ka'amar Chivarta. Because since he's specifying white wheat, why shouldn't he know white wheat? What's wrong with red wheat? Must be he needs it for idolatry. That means that since we made a special mention of Tarnago, that Tarnago would be usher even if he just says he wants a Tarnago. And still you're not allowed to sell him a white Tarnago. So Mechlal the Tarnago afilu stam and nami loy? So the Gemara says no. He says white wheat, you could sell him white wheat. It's not the derech to use that for idolatry. He says, sell me wheat for idolatry. We said then that, of course you can't do that. It's obvious. It's not so obvious. Upirushan it's strichalei. Because so kedai techamina, this guy says to Shalom Fogel, I want wheat for idolatry. Now, Shalom Fogel was wearing his pickleball cap. So he didn't know he was a Yid. And he thought that Shalom Fogel is a good Getchke guy too. And he figured since he does idolatry, if he tells Shalom, I want it for a little worship, Shalom will give him a break. So maybe he doesn't really mean it's for idolatry. He was just fishing for a break. Says the Gemara, he doesn't need it for Avoda Zara. They don't usually give wheat for Avoda Zara. He's a Hesa idolater. He's a Hesa pagan. He figures that just like he's an Hesa idolater, so Shalom is also, a Hesa pagan. And Eimahachi, he says, let me tell him it's for a little worship, that he should give me a little break. It's a little bargaining. Kamash Malan, no. If he says it's for idolatry, it's for idolatry, and then it's l'fnei yiva lo yisite mirshal. Boy Rav Ashi, Tarnago lovin ketua lami. If Abi hears them saying in the market, who has a rooster with an amputated toe? A white rooster with an amputated toe. Can he sell him a regular white rooster? Because since he's asking for a white rooster with an amputated toe, obviously he's not doing it for idolatry, because the mechusar eiver can't be used for idolatry. Mao limka loitarnegol love and shalom. Can he sell him a whole white rooster? Mi amrina, and do we say midika amar ketua, since he said an amputated toe, lav lavid is kechavim kabay. He's obviously not doing it for idolatry. Oidilmo, perhaps Yarume Kamarim, he's being a little bit clever. He says, I'll say an amputated toe. He probably is not going to have one with an amputated toe. So, but because I said that, he'll sell me a white rooster and I'll have it for idolatry. And imtim salayme, you take a chayshish for that. You take a chayshish that he's being deceitful. Imtim salayme Yarume de Kamarim, he's being deceitful. If he says Tarnago love and lami, Tarnago love and lami, who has a white rooster, who has a white rooster? The Yovle shacher, and you give him a black one, v'shakel, and he buys it. The Yovle edaim v'shakel, you give him a red one, and he buys it. Can you now sell him a white one? Obviously, he's not only shopping for idolatry. Ma'u limka lo'lovin. Can you sell him a white one? Mi amrina, and do we say, came in the Yov shakel v'shakel and a mishakel? You give him a black one, he bought it. A red one, he bought it. Lav it is kachavim kabay. He doesn't want it for idolatry. Oidilma irume kamar. Or maybe he's just being deceptive. He needs a white rooster. So he figures he'll buy a black one and a red one for the barbecue in order that he should get a white rooster. Take him. Tishbi atarz kushas ribayis. Rameir says, Aftekel Tov, V'chatzev, V'niklas. You could sell also a fine date palm. I mean, you're forbidden also to sell. Let's mute Eddie so we don't hear. He's talking to his bookie. Eddie put 60,000 down on White Wagon. So anyway, Rameir says you can't sell also a fine date palm and chotzev and Nicholas. Amalei Rav Chisda Lavime, Gemire, we have a tradition, Avodas Kechavim Avram Avinu, that the tractate of Avoda Zara of Avram Avinu was Daled Meya Pirkei, had 400 chapters. Va'anan, we on the other hand, Chamisha Tanan, we only have 5 chapters, and even in those 5 chapters, V'lo Yadinon Mai Kamrina, we don't know what it's talking about. So he said to him, my kusha, what's your difficulty with our 5 chapters? The Ketani, Rameir Aimraf Dekel Toiv Chatzav and Nicholas Aser Limka Live de Kechab. Also a fine date palm, a sorb bush, and Nicholas is forbidden to sell a guy. Now that implies Dekel Toiv Hu Delay Mazvaninon. You're not allowed to sell a good date palm. Hadekel Bish, a not so good date palm, an inferior date palm, Mazvinan. But wait a second. You're not allowed to sell a guy in Eretz Yisrael any kind of tree. Because it says, Lo Yisachanem, Lo Titein Lahem Chaniya Bekarka. You're not allowed to give them a possession of Eretz Yisrael. But Tanan Ein Moichin Lahem B'Mechubel Karka. You're not allowed to sell them anything that's attached to Eretz Yisrael. You're not allowed to give them a possession in Eretz Yisrael. Amalei, so he says, no, we're not talking about selling the date palm. We're talking about the dates of a fine date palm. Amalei, my dekel toiv, Peres dekel toiv. It means the fine fruit of a date palm. V'chein amar Rav Huna, peiris dekel tov, the fine fruit of a date palm. And the fruit, the fruit of an inferior date palm, he's not going to use for his idol, and that you could sell. Chotzav, so chotzav is kashba. So most people learn that this is the chotzav which Yeshua demarcated the boundaries of Eretz Yisrael. The chotzav bush, its roots go straight down. It doesn't spread on the side. So therefore, since it only has vertical roots, it is a good way to mark a boundary. Because even if the shrub is pulled out, the roots will still define exactly the boundary. Okay. Others say kashba, believe it or not, is a sugar cane. You know, they use candy canes for the tree. So some learned it's a sugar cane. Now, what's Nicholas? Kiyas Rabdimi Amrav Kama Bar Yosef Kuraiti. It's Kuraiti. It's a type of fruit, and Rashi just says it's min peiris. It's a type of fruit. The Art Scroll here has a discussion from the Aruch. By the way, for those that are not familiar of the Aruch is a very, very reliable dictionary cited by the Rishonim. So the Aruch says that it's a type of date that Nicholas, and Nicholas is referring to Nicholas of Damascus. Nicholas was a philosopher, and Nicholas of Damascus sent such dates to the Caesar in Rome, and it became known, this date became known as the Nicholas date. Kios Rabdimi, excuse me. So, Kios Rabdimi, Amar Rav Cham Bar Yosef Kuraite. It's a type of date. Amar Abaye Rabdimi. So Abaye said to Rabdimi, you know, Tanan Nicholas, it says in the Mishnah Nicholas, V'lo Yadin and Mal. We don't know what that is. V'atam et Kuraiti, and you say Kuraiti, and further V'lo Yadinan. We don't know what Kuraiti is. So my Hanislan, what did you benefit us? You know, you ask somebody, what is Schmerling? So he says, a Schmerling is a babuchka. So thank you. I don't know what a Schmerling is. I know what a babuchka is. So here Abaye says, I didn't know what Nicholas is, and I don't know what Kuraiti is. So he says, no. It's important what I told you. Because if you should ever go to Eretz Yisrael, when you go to Eretz Yisrael, Nicholas, if you tell them Nicholas below Yoda, they won't know what it is. But Amrlu Kuraite, if you'll tell them Kuraite, that v'yodei, that they will know, v'kamach v'lach, and they'll show you what it is. Okay, Rabbi Isai, it was late, but I did promise that we would get it done quickly. We did it in 27 minutes.